Ooh, 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 ooh.
Okay.
And we're live, ladies. Hey, guys, it's your Blue Line group with your Blue Line Wives Roll Call podcast. I'm Shannon Gilbert with EMR Real Estate.
I'm Jamie Wright with Wright Dalbo Insurance.
I'm Amy Lewis with Priority Mortgage.
I'm Tracy Tormacy with Valmer Title.
And we are coming to you live from LEPD Firearm and Range on Bethel Road right here in Columbus, Ohio.
And for those of you that do not know who we are yet, we are a dedicated team of law enforcement families specializing in real estate, lending, title, and insurance services for everyone about creating ongoing professional relationships and giving back to our first responder families.
Yes, welcome, ladies. It's exciting because we have a special guest.
Oh, yeah.
But before that, did anybody do anything fun this past week?
Not as fun as you.
Oh, yeah. Tracy?
Amy and I were doing field hockey.
Oh,
Our
well,
daughters
that's
had a
fun.
field hockey tournament.
That's right.
Oh, did they win?
We're Focky moms.
We're Focky moms.
PG-13, ladies.
F-O-C-K-E-Y.
I can't believe that came from Amy. Can you believe Amy said that?
So field hockey is Focky.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It is.
Maybe it's just us. Yeah, thought the other way. Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I don't even remember what I did. I don't even remember.
It was
That's
all
okay.
a blur.
It is.
That's what happens when you have kids. Your husband.
I did have a lot of fun. I went to a concert. We drove to
you-
Covington.
You forgot about that?
You put it into a concert?
Who was
I
it?
just, your days run together when you've got multiple children and a dog and everything else. Florida Georgia Line.
Oh, girl, you
Oh,
got
I
your
love
country
that.
on.
You're so good.
Did you wear country
So
boots?
cute.
No, I wore Chuck Taylors.
Oh, you
Stay
would.
true.
Super cute.
You wore those for your wedding, too.
I sure did.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing
They were
wrong with
blue too.
Oh.
My blue
Aw.
Chuckies.
Did you go like Blue Line? While you're there?
Well, yeah, and then hubby's ring has like blue.
Florida
and-
Line. You're like, I'm Blue Line.
Yeah. Actually, they were red.
Have you seen that they're not Chuck Taylor brands, but have you seen the shoes that look just like Chuck Taylor's, but they're all about first responders and
Oh yeah. Because you posted it on your
Yeah.
Facebook page.
yeah, they have all kinds of ones. One's for fire, one's for police. I think they even have ones for realtors.
Oh, hey. Want to buy a house? Shoo me.
That could be your gift.
That's really funny.
Well, let's get into our special guest.
Yes, please.
Yes, Chris,
Before I
welcome.
embarrass myself. Anymore.
So she is a spouse of a Franklin County deputy who was involved in a critical incident officer-involved shooting. So welcome. So we have you on for you to definitely tell us your experience as a spouse and what all you went through. So if you don't mind, can you walk us through that day?
Okay, well, that day was a Wednesday and was just a normal day for us. I would randomly get text from Rick. If I don't hear from him for a while and he's been real busy, I just get the letter K. That means he's okay and I don't need to worry about him. And so I knew two of the guys. There's only 4 guys that work over in domestic relations, and 2 of the guys I knew were out. And so it was just him and one of the other guys. And he had texted me he was going to go to lunch and to call his office soon. So I was actually at the grocery store shopping, and 12:47, I get a text that says, I shot somebody. I'm okay, and I love you.
Oh.
And I've known Rick since we were 14, and there was no doubt in my mind that if he got to that place that he really thought he wasn't going home that night. And so I got a call from one of the guys who took him off scene, and he just had said, he's here next to me. He's really shaken, and he will call you when he can.
And you're still at the grocery store?
Well, because first I get the text, and I hear that he's got a special sound, like all my kids and my husband have a special sound on my phone, so I knew it was him. So I thought he was just telling me to call his office. And so I honestly didn't check it like super fast. And I go out to the car, and I'm opening the back of the Jeep, and I happen to just to pick up my phone and look at it, and I read it, and I couldn't breathe.
You had to read it twice, 3 times.
I can't tell you how many times I read it. I couldn't breathe. I just immediately just froze. I just started sobbing because you want to know details.
Right.
And it was one of my worst fears because we live in like hour and a half, hour 45 minutes away from Columbus. So as hysterical as I was, I knew it was not a safe option for me to drive up there as much as that's the only thing I wanted to do. I called my oldest daughter. I said, I don't know anything. I know there was a shooting, and I know that he's okay. I don't know anything else. And she burst into tears. And it was, I sat in the parking lot at Fresh Time for probably 45 minutes until I could breathe and that I could stop shaking. I didn't hear from anybody for a while. Some of Rick's old friends from that we used to go camping with, they called and they were just want to check on me. How are you doing? What do you know? I'm like, I don't know anything.
So at this point, you still don't know nothing.
No, nothing. I know that he actually, one of his friends found out they were transporting him to the hospital for head trauma. And, but I'm like, but nobody told me he was okay. And he was like, no, he's conscious and stuff, but he's got some head trauma and some cuts and some, they're just worried about stuff. So,
Your husband had the head trauma.
yeah.
And you didn't find out about that until after.
Oh yeah. I didn't, the stuff I didn't find about till after.
Which is probably a good thing.
Yeah. Then I know the day was a blur. It was probably 3 or 4 hours afterwards. God love him. Keith Farrell called me, the president of the FOP, and he couldn't tell me anything because nobody could tell me anything. And I was not very pleasant because I wanted to hear Rick's voice. I wanted to know he was okay, because you don't go to the hospital if you're not okay.
Did they tell you why they couldn't tell you anything?
Well, because Rick was only allowed to talk to his lawyer, his priest, and his wife.
So you had to hear it from him directly. That was their stance on that.
So let me ask you a
sometimes,
question.
yeah.
Was there any spousal support out there?
No.
Like there was nothing where
No.
somebody came. To me, I feel like, oh my gosh, maybe we should get it together. Spousal support. Go out there and drive an hour and 45 minutes, pick you up, bring you back, to your husband. So there was nobody.
No. And Rick did say, he goes,
That's horrible.
he said, I think I recall somebody saying, do you want us to go get her? And he goes, and all I thought of was, number one, you were going to be hysterical. The room was filled with people, and he's like, I know I couldn't talk to you because the room was filled with all these, and for him it was strangers. They were, and they were higher ups and stuff, and then there was
Right.
FOP people, but he didn't know them. And I didn't even feel at ease until somebody called me and told me that Sprang was with him, and he was his old corporal. I think now he's sergeant or whatever, but and I know they were friendly, like when they were at the jail and stuff.
At least he had somebody.
Right, it was
that he
somebody he was
knew.
comfortable
Right.
with, and I felt a little at ease. And then I texted him. I actually texted him and was like, not very nice words. I need to hear Rick's voice right now, or
Sure.
I'm driving up there. And within a few moments, my phone rang, and I guess they cleared the room out, and I got to hear his voice, and I just sobbed. And I don't even remember what we talked about. I just remember I was sobbing, and he kept saying, I'm going to come home. I'm going to come home. He's like, I can't tell you anything because the room, I'm not allowed to talk to anybody until I get home or with the lawyer. So, and then he didn't get home that night until, I want to say about 8:30.
So let me ask you this. When you got the text, what was your very first thought?
He had to think he was going to die.
Okay.
That was, that was the first thing that hit my head. And then I was like, oh my gosh, he's got to be hurt. And he just kept telling me he was fine. And that's now our joke code word when you're actually not okay, but you don't want to talk about what it is. You're like, oh, you're fine. I gotcha. So,
So fine means just wait till later until we can
Right,
talk.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So what happened that day for him?
He said that because I know he was in his office. He was heating up his lunch because his lunch stayed in the microwave for like 3 or 4 days. He was heating up his lunch. He said he heard some yelling, some profanity, somebody was clearly upset.
Not to interrupt you, but he's working at the courthouse.
Right. He works in domestic relations. They are responsible for 6th floor, 5th floor, and then 3rd floor.
So it's just him or it's two guys?
But that day it was just 2 guys.
Okay.
But when if you're on patrol and you go on domestic, 2 people go. He is in a building of domestic where nobody's happy that are there. I mean,
Sure.
you're there because something bad is happening.
Right.
They're going to try to take your kids.
Divorce.
Divorce. Somebody's a winner, somebody's a loser. And so somebody's always irate. Somebody's always angry. Somebody's always yelling. So, but that's their normal. And so he said for him, he'd heard him, so he kind of went over in the doorway and kind of watched what was going on. And when the case got called, the bailiff kind of nodded to him like, come on in. And Rick said he knows when they enter the room, if people are agitated, they're going to be more tense once they walk in, because then they think, uh-oh, something's not good.
Right,
So Rick
right.
said, I paused because I wanted to, I didn't want to come in there and make it worse. So I waited, that kind of
So
stuff.
he eased himself in there.
Right. And then he was first over by the bailiff, and then things kind of got heated. There was people walking in and out of the room because they were angry with what they were hearing. The plea deal wasn't good enough, yada, yada, yada. They needed to sign the paper because it was being continued, because there was an argument between the lawyer and the suspect's family that they, didn't want to go to court, and, so the magistrate just
So the
kind of,
suspect is a juvenile,
yes,
a tall boy, 16, 17 years old?
yeah, 17, I believe. They had to sign the paperwork to, continue it, and there was, again, lots of profanity. I'm not effing signing this, like all kinds of stuff, just very aggressive. Rick's like, I tried to, hey, we got to calm down. We don't, you don't talk like that in the courtroom, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's CIT trained, his thing is all about de-escalation, especially where he works,
Right.
So he was trying, at that point, he was trying to usher them out, and this way is the exit. This way is not the exit. This way is a locked hallway that you have to have a key or a key card to get down.
And when you
So-
say exit them, he had his mom with him.
Yes, there was a mother. There was, I believe, a brother, a little brother, grandmother. There were some other people that were back in the thing. So it was a group of.
Okay.
So he was trying to usher them this way. They kept going this way. The mom had put her hands on Rick twice. The third time she shoved him hard enough that he was like, that's it, you're done. Because he said, where I work, I give leeway because everybody's angry. If I arrested everybody for disorderly that was disorderly there, like that's what I do all day.
Yeah. And it's not personal. It's
no.
It's what those people were there for. They're escalated anyway.
Right. And, and he said, so I give them grace. I really do, And that's why he let the first two go. He was like, I'm not going to do this. So, but the last, then he was going to arrest her. And that's when he was, I guess, he was like bent over because he was doing ballast displacement because she was resisting and like going to swing on him and stuff. So he was taking her to the ground. And that's when the suspect just jumped on his back and pummeled him, as far as we can tell, about 10 times in the temple. That he said, that Rick said the first one that was on this side was the hardest. His glasses were flown off.
So now he had both mom and son.
Right. Mom was under, son was on top. There was other people around. He said, I don't know all that went on behind me. But he said, as he kept hitting him in the head, he said, I felt it just closing in on me. And I felt like I was going down. He said, when he was on my back, I felt him tug at my gun. He goes, then I locked down on my gun. So then he's only got one hand.
Right.
So
Right.
he's trying to, get off my back, that sort of thing. But he's still locked down on his weapon because he's like, number one thing, you retain your weapon at all costs.
And just to stop you really quick, I think the viewers who are not in law enforcement, when they say, oh, he's unarmed, they're really not, because when an officer has a gun, anybody can pull that, and now they become armed.
Right.
And now
Good
he has
point.
to worry about himself, all the people
All
in
of
the
the people.
courtroom. He's responsible for everybody.
Yeah, and the racial slurs that were said so harshly and aggressively in the courtroom,
To your husband, directed
no,
to?
to the bailiff that was working there,
Oh.
who was just trying to calm him down with Rick, and he was out there also, and during the whole altercation before he was pummeling Rick's head, he was also screaming the racial slurs, profanities at the bailiff again out there.
When you say out there, that's the hallway, right?
In the hallway, yeah. But it was at lunchtime, so there was not a plethora of people. Like some days you go there and there's hundreds of people on the fifth floor. It is
But there's still attorneys, judge, people.
right. Just citizens there, you know. So anyway, but he was locked down on his gun, trying to scoop, and try to get him off his back. But he said, I felt myself going, I'm going to black out. And he said, all I can think of is if I'm down, my gun's gone, because part of the charges that were in that room were aggravated, like ag medicine, ag rob. So that means he has knowledge of a weapon.
Right.
So it's not going to take that long to get this out.
So it was going through his mind that he could take my gun and start shooting everybody.
And he said, I'm the first one that's going.
Yeah.
And then anybody else that's out here.
Right.
Because they're pissed.
Right.
And but so he says, I'm scooping, I'm going around, and then he gets plowed like a freight train from the back.
From who?
he doesn't know because he knows all these people are here. So in his head, he's going to black out. He's got somebody going for his gun. Now the person that's hit them from behind has now pinned Rick's arm. So he can't even get to this one. So he's got this, and this is stuck.
And he's being beat up.
And now the suspect is under him, pulling on his taser and his knife. So Rick says, you know, I get the not very nice word off my taser. He didn't stop. It wasn't, you know, Rick's like, if I went, he was like, how many weapons are there? Even if he gets the taser first and I'm incapacitated, my gun's free for all.
And he's saying, don't stop resisting, and they're still attacking.
Right, and that's nobody ever stopped. Nobody, the person that hit him from behind never said who he was, never announced, I'm here to help you, nothing. So it
To
was.
this day, does anybody know who that was?
Yes, yeah, we know who it was. It was a probation officer. But
was he there to help or make problems worse?
He was there to help, but
It may have backfired.
yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
I think it's important to note if you would tell us a little bit about your husband's background. I mean, he's not new at what he does.
No, he's been an officer for now going on 21 years. He was in Hamilton County down in Cincinnati for 10 years. He took a promotion to courts. He did not realize that started him over on a different contract. And so when layoffs happened in 2008, he was new guy on the totem pole. So even though he had been there 10 years, he was laid off
In Hamilton County.
In Hamilton County. So he was like, I have a child. I need insurance. I need, income. So he started testing, looking places. He got hired on at Franklin County. So his last day at first shift down in Hamilton County was also his first night, third shift up
wow.
here.
That's a long
So-
day.
And keep in mind, he commutes a good, hour and a half?
Yeah.
Hour and 45
at
minutes?
least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so he has the god awful commute, but yeah, so he started up here and he was in the jail and then bid out and he went to Muni court and he was in patrol for a while and he loves domestic relations. That's the kicker of the whole thing. He loves what he does.
Passion.
He does. The kids, when we get to the point when our kids are all grown, he says to me, I want to sign up so we can be like foster parents so I can give these kids a good
Right.
home. Like that's
His
and
calling. That was his
it is.
calling.
This is his calling.
Right.
That's what made this so much worse for all of us because I begged him not to come back. Honest to God, I begged him not to come back. I had a ongoing joke at our house. I wanted him to be the greeter at Costco.
Yeah.
He would still have the power to
Yeah.
tell you can't enter. You don't have a Costco card,
Right.
But I was like, they have decent insurance and nobody's trying to kill you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
but he was like, I can't. This is who I am.
Right.
So how do you deal with this now that he has expressed to you, I'm going back, this is what I love, you can't stop me, no one can stop me. How do you feel about that? How do you deal with that? What do you have? Do you have a support system now around you? How do you deal with it?
We went to counseling just to be able to talk about stuff
Sure.
because
Yeah.
he does have he has lasting brain injury from the incident and he has back injuries and all kinds of stuff. There's a whole nother can of worms, but so it's a different way to communicate and so we just went to like, it was like, I don't know, I wouldn't even call it like marriage counseling, but it was like we would just go and be able to talk and I was like, I'm terrified you're going to go back,
Sure.
and and the counselor was like, well, how can you make her feel better about this? So because we do live so far away and that's one of my huge things. I'm like, I can't, I have anxiety so bad now it's insane, but for me, I can't be that far away indefinitely.
And go through that again.
Right. I can't do it. I simply cannot. And so, he started off back at light duty, which was nice because then he was just at a control booth and he was hitting buttons and he hated it.
And he hated it.
But I loved it,
Sure.
So, but yeah, he every day is like, I hate this. I want to be a real cop again. So the day he finally got medically released, he was like a kid at Christmas. He ran up and he is like doing his uniform and polishing his
shiny.
shoes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But
He has a gift for it.
Yeah. And it didn't stop there. I mean, you still had to go through a lot after this incident.
We have had, I never realized this. And most people, I think, if an officer gets hurt on duty, you assume that people around them who you would feel is responsible to take care of them you would think that, hey, you know what? This head injury happened at work on the 5th floor during this incident. We're going to pay to take care of you. No, we're still fighting workers' comp.
That's horrible.
Wow.
The ironic part is we followed the rules. We talked to no one. That like anybody at the courthouse, we talked to no one until after grand jury. Our grand jury took 10 months to happen. Well, by then we had exhausted all of our workers' comp trial, our hearings. So the very last one happened 2 weeks after our after grand jury, where we found out he was hit from behind with the box from the ankle monitoring system. And because I'd always said that the part on his back, it's an L shape. It was the corner of the box. I was like, you were hit with something. Because he can't see it, so I'm taking pictures of it, you know. And but
Didn't he have his vest on?
So he
had his vest on, but it's lower. It's lower right there. But yeah, for the whole time I had said you were hit with something like a box, and he was like, I don't know what hit me from behind. I was focused on not passing out and retaining my weapon.
We
So
are
he-
exposed to so much violence. All of our families are, all of our kids are. I don't think people that are not in law enforcement even understand.
You're right.
It's not like the movies. It's
Right.
not like the cop show on TV.
No.
They don't get back up after they're shot and limp out of
Right.
the room and
Right.
still save the
save
day.
the day. Yeah.
They
There's
are,
no-
they are human.
Yeah,
And
Right.
that's
and the
what a
mental
lot of people
toll that
forget.
takes on families.
And
Yeah.
their families. Families take the biggest toll.
Oh, when
Yeah.
it first happened and everything was on Facebook and the people were threatening and all they were going to unload a clip in him and all kinds of stuff. I mean, my kids, my one daughter, who's 16 now, I had to actually make her like turn off her social media because she couldn't stop reading it. She wouldn't go to the front of our house because she was reading that they were going to come shoot up
my
our
gosh.
house.
Sure.
My
So,
late
you know.
husband was in an incident that involved a shooting. Nothing like what you have gone through. But I know that week that he had to take off work and we're talking to a lawyer and we're talking to a counselor. And we lived out in the country. I mean, he's taking his sidearm out to the hot tub with us because of threats. And this is before social media was
horrible.
quite as mainstream as it is today. But yeah, those things don't just go away
No.
at the end of the day. So I
Yeah.
can
No,
only
They stay
imagine.
forever.
Yeah.
And then what about sleeping? How do you even close your
Right.
eyes to go to sleep at night?
Did you I was going to say, they don't, I mean, that's one of the things that like afterwards, all the stuff that, you know, comes up and whatever. But yeah, they don't sleep anymore. You know, I don't know, everything is seen in a different light, you know. I mean, and sadly, it's like that for my whole family, like all my kids, you know. I think they thought too, like they're going to take care of you. You were hurt at, you know. We even tried to, because they were like, you might need to medically retire. He's been in 20
wow.
years. We thought, because we left this is how bad it was. We left one of our workers' comp hearings, and our workers' comp attorney says, you might want to go down to PERS and, you know, talk to them and see what your options are. I'm like, okay, like, you know, and he's like looking like, you know, a ghost, because he's like, no, this is what I was put on this earth to do.
Right.
Like, my dad was a cop, I'm a cop, my cousins are cop, you know, like this is in his blood. And we go down there and we find out that he would get like $32,000 a year, and but to insure our family was $2,600 a month, which is almost more than like the check would
The
be
income.
like yeah. So he's like, I can't even medically retire. He was like, because I'm going to have to go back to work and do something else that I don't even like. You know, he's like, I love my job. So, I mean, that's what it was just this, like, you know, I don't know. There's just all these things you assume, you
Right,
know. If
sure.
you're hurt on duty, they're going to take care of you. No.
Right.
So let me ask you a question. Sorry to me. Do you think that other officers out there hear these stories and they're afraid to shoot because of the aftermath?
Oh.
Like, could you imagine?
Yeah, because, well, when I heard about it and when I was sitting, like, for those, 6 hours during that day, thinking everything in the whole world, my other thought is, oh, my gosh, are they going to, like, riot and tear down Columbus? Isn't it going to be, like, feel like we're responsible? Well, we're not, but, because
Right.
there's only one side of things released for the most part. I mean.
Yeah, because you guys can't talk.
Right. Well, you can't talk, but even the news. I mean, they got Rick's file. They didn't even report, like, black and white, like, how long he worked places. And I'm reading this going, literally, you can't, I mean. if
No
you're gonna-
awards were probably listed.
No,
No,
not all the
accomplishments. Yeah.
accommodations, not, but the one thing they found was, well, it's weird that there wasn't God, I can't think of the word, like the review, your yearly review or whatever, because the time he would have had it, he was in FTO phase and patrol, and that so it was like he was just in between a cycle. But they're like, well, that's strange. I wonder why that is.
Oh, don't get us started on the media, girlfriend.
So yeah, I mean, it was.
We're right there with you.
But it's so frustrating, and you have to sit and be silent and just take it.
Sure.
And I'm like, they're
And
attacking his
that's
character,
hard.
and I'm like,
Absolutely.
you know what? Like that's just wrong.
Well, and I think too that he's there to help. He was there to help.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like and I'm here to help and I'm to do my job, and then he's jumped
right
essentially
from behind, and he's like, the bad thing is when they were it was it was a juvenile, blah blah. You don't say like he was fighting somebody from the front. He was attacked from behind.
He was trying to save all the people in the room.
Right. Like, it's never the full
Sure.
story.
And again, you got to protect your gun.
And
Right,
they're so
and
quick
exactly.
to point out that he was a juvenile, but wasn't he bigger than your husband?
Yeah, he was taller than him.
And
Yeah.
17.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Grown boy.
Right.
Old
but,
enough to know better.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, I couldn't imagine fearing for my life like that, where you have to
right.
take your
and
gun out and take action, you know?
And but he said, I was pinned. I was like, my arm is pinned. I can't. And
He's no choice.
Right. And he said, he's like, I had to like pull as far as I could just to even be able to unholster my gun. But he's yanking at my stuff in the, and unfortunately that's just where that stuff sits on their belt.
If he didn't do what he did, his gun could have, obviously came out of the holster, and then the suspect could have grabbed it. And
Right. It could have been.
It could have been a lot worse
Yeah.
had he not reacted the way that he did.
yeah, because again, everybody's still armed when they have a gun. When an officer has a gun.
Yeah, and that's the other thing they keep it. Well, it's everybody was unarmed in there. Once he loses his weapon, if he becomes rendered unconscious, and it's a free for all.
Right.
So
I want to ask you personally a question. Looking back on all of this now, and even though you probably still feel like you're in the middle of it, is there anything that would have made this easier for you? Do you feel like something is missing, something is lacking that really would have helped you now looking back?
I think I think the issue was it hadn't been a shooting, I guess, in Franklin County, like a critical incident in, I think, 13 years or something like that. So things are so very different now. Like everybody that kept telling us, this is what it's going to be like, this is what it's going to be like, it wasn't like any of that because it had been so long. And I don't know if CPD doesn't do stuff the same way or, I don't know. But just if there was even somebody just could, I don't know, like walk you through it or
hold your hand
because and nobody could call me and be like, hey, I know what you feel like.
Right.
Because you don't.
A victim's advocate, first of all, because your husband was a victim.
Yeah.
And you were the victim right alongside with him. So a victim's advocate would have been fantastic for you. A liaison between the city or the county and you and your family and attorneys would have been helpful for you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I will say that our workers' comp attorney, that's the same firm that the FOP goes through, but she worked alongside our main attorney for the grand jury side of it, and she was great. I would call her and be like, this is what Robert said, and da-da-da-da-da, and, and so we would, she'd be like, okay, this is what he means when he says that, because, for us, we've never been through any of this. For them, they do this stuff all the time.
It's every day for them.
And even just knowing like what it's going to be like when he goes and gives a statement and all that, all of that, everything is unknown. And I think that's the other part. He's dealing with head trauma. He's dealing with the injuries. He's fighting workers' comp. He's dealing with, media, not knowing where the county stands, because his wasn't black and white, even though like if you're on our side of it, it was black and white.
Right.
He was defending himself and, keeping his weapon.
Right.
But yeah, so there's all these unknowns and, things you're dealing with at the same time, and you're fearing for grand jury. People don't realize, at least I never realized, and people I've talked to didn't realize that grand jury is made up of 14 people. 2 are alternates. The other 12, you only need 8 people to vote that they think that you did something. They're not interviewed. They're not like, where you see on TV where, okay, this one's approvable. This one we approve of. This one we don't. It is strangers. There could be 8 cop-hating people, and those people decide your fate, whether you're going to be indicted or not.
Right.
And that's terrifying. I mean, I remember
10 months you guys went through that.
10 months. I remember that was the week before grand jury, and we went to our attorneys, and again, it's just going through the motions and stuff. And he says to us, I don't think it'll happen, but I need to tell you what happens if they come back and they're going to indict him. And it takes your breath away because you're like, I'm sorry, did you see all this crap we've dealt with the last however long? And he said, I know.
You've
said-
already lived through hell. You don't need more.
Right. And but thinking that, like, because you're like, no, like this to us, it's so cut
It
and
didn't
dry.
even go across your mind. That,
Right.
Yeah.
And but he says that, and you're like, oh my God. And they're like, we'll work out your surrender. And I'm like,
Right.
you know, I don't think I talked for like 3 hours afterwards because it was just another sucker punch, you know, where you just feel like, how can this, how can you be in this situation, you know, but in 10 months out, you know, and then they finished our grand jury on Friday. People came back at like 5:06. We had special prosecutors from Cuyahoga County do ours because Rick works in the courthouse. He's with the prosecutors, not the ones doing that would have done that. But we didn't talk to anybody. Well, one of our really good witnesses that we didn't know until after the fact was a prosecutor that also saw the suspect go for Rick's gun. But we don't know any of this. So we're just like, oh my God, why are we getting special prosecutors? I mean, if there was a thing they could have thrown on it to make it more complicated, it did.
Yeah.
But so the verdict came back at 5:06. Well, Franklin County, they're closed at 5 o'clock.
Oh, my stars.
So instead of thinking that, oh my gosh, we get to be relieved, we get to know this hell is over.
They come back Monday.
No. Yes.
Oh,
they
it was on a Friday.
Yeah.
It was, but so not even just the Friday. Monday morning at 9 o'clock, when the clerk came in, they were supposed to clerk it right away. There was an error. So they had to fix that. Then the Cuyahoga County had to have a special meeting with their head prosecutor on whether to release it or not. So we didn't find out it was a no bill until like 11:27 that day. So that was the longest
my
weekend of my
gosh.
entire life.
That is a sure
And you guys stayed in
test.
Columbus?
No.
You went back home?
We went home. The attorney said, go. Just as soon as you're done testifying, get your stuff and go. We will call you with the verdict. Get out of Franklin County.
It's probably the worst weekend of your life.
It was.
I remember meeting you guys for lunch that week.
Yeah.
And
The week of grand jury.
Yes, and I remember you can tell your guys' minds. You were there in our conversation, but you weren't. I can imagine just thinking the worst.
We weren't even ironic. There was days we didn't even go out because we did stay in Columbus because we were within 15 minutes of the courthouse in case they needed us or whatever. And so my kids were stuck down in Cincinnati, and God love my oldest. She just took the reins and took care of all the younger kids and stuff.
And she's a gym, by the way. All your kids are.
She is. They all are. Yeah, so there was days we didn't even leave the hotel, and we only went to dinner that we ate.
Yeah.
The 2 days we ate were with you guys because we couldn't even. You can't even think.
And you can tell by
to
the outside looking in.
Right, you can't think
Eating
to
dinner,
to eat. You can't think to do any. You're just you just replay it over and over, and you're just. I mean, you're just sick to your stomach like that whole time. So that last weekend was I will probably say, other than my sister passing away unexpectedly, that weekend was the worst weekend of my entire life.
No, you can tell. No, I remember going to the dinner. You guys just weren't there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Jim was trying to get him out instead of being in the hotel. Yeah.
Well, that's
a
a lot of post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're in the middle of it, and so now that that's
Somewhat
and I know you're living it right now, but
Yeah.
so tell, and I know that there's a lot of police wives out there that this is a huge fear, obviously, and they want to know how your marriage is now. Has this made you guys stronger? How has this affected the family? What does that look like for you now?
I know with Rick and I, it's made us stronger. We've gone, but I mean, we laugh that, we have gone through so many different things that could have torn people apart. 2 days after we got married, my sister died in her sleep unexpectedly. And the first thing he says to me, this is the kind of guy he is. He says to me, not anything, oh my gosh, he said, we'll take her kids. I'm like,
They took her kids.
buddy,
know.
we live in Columbus. You work in Columbus. That's not. And then this is my sister's kids, and I'm like, that is not going to work. He's like, we'll make it work. He said,
And you guys weren't even married at the time, right?
no, we were married then. We
You were
don't.
married. Oh, that's right. It was
just
2
got
days
married.
after. You're right. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah. So. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but that's who he is.
Yeah.
That's why when they were attacking his character, talk about wanting to just I was furious because
course.
and that's why we do the drive. When my sister first died, he had said, because we had a house in Springfield and it was nice. He used to ride to work with one of the other deputies. I mean, it was good gig, and we got rid of that house and moved back down to where my sister lived. He said those kids have had enough sudden change. They don't need to move schools. They don't move to churches.
Wow.
So, and that was even further down. So that was a good hour, 45 to 2 hours, because that's where my sister lived. And he wanted to keep those kids to the familiar that they knew. And so we ended up getting custody of my niece. She was 17, so by the time we would have adopted her, it would have been a moot
Right.
point.
Right.
But my nephew, we fought for 4 years for him. During that time he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, all kind, just literally, we've had so many things.
I can't even imagine that you would have to even fight for him.
Great. Shout out to Cole.
Yeah. Shout out to Cole. But yeah, he, but that's what upsets me most about some of the stuff is because that's who Rick is. That's the guy he is. For Christmas up at the courthouse, we do gift bags for all the little kids up there. My kids donate their Christmas money. On Black Friday, I started this a couple years ago. Rick and I were talking about it. Our kids have so much. They're so blessed. They'll tell you we don't have this or we don't have the Cole. Poor Cole, he doesn't have the newest Xbox, but he's gonna live. So we had them take just a portion of money. It wasn't, I think it was like 10 or 20 bucks each kid, just the first year. And we went and we looked at the ads or whatever. We all Black Friday shop as a family. And Rick will tell you he doesn't like it, but he does. And
It's memories.
He's at Menards with 2 carts. Don't let him fool you. And but
He's out shopping you.
Yeah, but so the kids bought coloring books and stuffed animals and mittens because I was like, you got to buy something practical. And some little trinkety things. And then I bought the bags. And so we did these cellophane bags and stuff. And then we had them age groups because we got some stuff for like babies or whatever. And I had the kids come up there and hand stuff out the first year and had Rick and the deputies show. Well, they all the guys were like, I don't know about this. I'm like, just to do it. Trust me. When you see these kids' faces,
You're gonna be so happy.
oh my gosh, the kids love it. So this year we went big, like big. And my kids loved it too because they're like, this is so fun.
It's a good feeling to give back.
It
sure.
is. It is.
Absolutely.
And so now, even now in his office, even whenever my kids see good sales, they'll buy. My oldest and her best friend, they found a store that Party City that was closing. They bought 5, I'm talking gigantic Rubbermaids filled with stuff to do for the kids for all year round now.
That's
So it's
awesome.
but that's, that's the type of family. That's what Rick, that's what he
started
makes,
that.
He did. That's what he makes.
That's what he
at home.
wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
So if anybody wanted to donate, what can they do? Is there certain things that the kids love more that they could donate around?
Little kids we found they love stuffed animals. We also have a big bookshelf up there on the 5th floor now too, where the kids can take a book and leave a book or whatever they want.
Did
Like a library.
he start that too?
We just started bringing stuff up there,
Wow.
and so then we joke around and call it the his partner's Pat. This is Pat's memorial bookshelf here, and because they cleaned out his daughter's bookcase of younger kid books and brought them up there, but all those guys that are up there, that's not a fun place to be, but
Right.
they love where they work. They love because you do get to see some good, happy things. You do get to, see where somebody maybe turned their life around and they got their kid back, and it did turn out good. And, but yeah, one of them, they know Rick is the guy with the toys. And, and I always said to him, if there is one kid that changes their mind about a police officer because they had a good encounter,
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We say
that
that.
was worth any amount of money
Absolutely.
I
We
spent
say
on
that all
any
the
of that
time.
stuff,
Yeah.
because they do. They'll come up hi and high five him. And I got these pictures at Christmas one of them still my background on my phone, because Rick's with 3 of these kids, and the 3 kids, they're there all the time. But they know, do you have any of this or that or whatever, they know they go to Rick's office and they get to open the bins and they get to look. But if there's one thing positive, that
Absolutely.
Right.
that right there is enough.
Well, it's awesome to hear that even through this super tragic event that it's really brought your family closer together, and you guys have taken the opportunity to make it.
And be a blessing to others.
Yeah.
In what you have experienced,
Yeah.
you still have it in your heart to be a blessing to others.
Yes, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You,
Because some people
You're
would get
amazing.
bitter and not continue doing it.
Yeah.
I had the bitter moment.
of course, you're
I'm
human.
not gonna lie. Yeah, my kids will be like, "Mom, you lied." No, I did. I was like, "Why do you want to go back to that place who didn't support you? Why do you want to go?" What is that? The risk management guy. He sat across from you. He works in the same building as you, and he basically sat in your workers' comp hearing and called you a liar. That those things didn't happen there. I know that you didn't have any head issues before. I know that you didn't have any back issues before. All my kids know this. We know all of these things.
But why? You shouldn't be going through that as
Right.
a family.
Right.
I'm like, why do you want to go back there? So it took a lot of and I understand this is who he is to the core. That's just it is what it is. That's why I'm like, I just had to let it go because he loves what he does.
God
know?
always knows the truth.
Yeah.
And he will always bless those who portray the truth.
Yeah. You guys both have definitely,
on
like
top.
Jamie said, pure hearts. Man. That's good. I could never imagine.
We're so glad you came today.
Don't cry.
We should all be passing the hug down.
I know, right? Aw.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us.
So much.
Thanks for having me.
What a wow.
You know, it's hard because you sit in silence and you just let all these things go and happen, and nobody ever hears like, you know, what it's like. And, you know, God forbid this happened to somebody else's like family or whatever. Like, I want to be able to help that wife because I know what it was like to sit at home and know nothing.
Right.
You know, that was the most terrifying like whole day, you know, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know a thing, you know, and nobody, like, because we don't live up here. So, you know, that's another thing. We have gone to try to be more present up here where we'll come up and go out with work friends. So I can build a relationship with like those wives and that kind of stuff because it's hard to have nobody, you know, because he doesn't work down there. You know, there are police wives down there and stuff, and they're great, but you know, it's
They
a
may not
family,
have-
but
yeah.
it is a family.
Yeah.
Like you can meet a police wife anywhere, and your sisters because
Yeah.
they deal with the same. They know what it's like to celebrate Christmas on a different day, and
Yeah.
you know, to show up
Right,
to kids' birthday
right.
parties by yourself,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
you know, and your family doesn't understand why you can't come over at the crack of dawn because your husband's worked third shift and he needs to sleep till 2 or 3
Sure.
p.m. You know,
I
Yeah,
get
no,
it. And you know, you bring up an interesting point too. I know we're trying to close out here, but I've had a lot of police wives reach out recently that are really struggling. So if you guys are having a hard time, please reach out to us. I mean, even if we can't offer you a little peace of mind, we have a lot of resources that can
Absolutely.
help you too.
And you don't have to share your name.
Yeah.
Sure.
You don't have to get into the nitty gritty, but just know that you have 5
Yeah.
friends here ready to
Yeah,
help you.
and if you want to talk about the nitty gritty, we got those stories too.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Whatever you need.
Yes.
So whatever you need, we all have a little piece of that pie. So please reach out if you need some help.
Yes, and if you want to donate to your fun at Christmas time,
we take anything really that
Yes.
little kids like, toys, mittens. I like to do mittens because the kids come down with no hats and no mittens.
yes,
So,
absolutely.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
I'll be donating because I love Black Friday shopping.
We will take those donations and deliver them in person.
Absolutely. And then, Jamie, what are we
Talking about next week?
I got you.
All
They can't hear
right.
you whispering.
We are going to be talking about a great organization called Get Behind the Badge. Stacy, the vice president, will be joining us.
That's right. And you know what? I'm going to be asking them about, wonder what they can offer if something like that happens.
Yeah.
The support.
Stacy, beware.
Be ready, girl.
She's going to be calling me like, something came up, I can't come.
Be prepared, yes. So, but remember, we want to hear from you, whatever your needs are, whatever your questions are. If you just want to come on and be a guest, promote whatever you do, we're happy to have you. You can reach us on Facebook at the Blueline Real Estate Services Central Ohio, or just feel free to email us at bluelinegroupofohio@gmail.com.
Yes, that's right.
stop and remind
And how was
myself.
your first time, Tracy? Did you?
It was great.
Yeah.
I love getting to talk to the 3 of you. It was awesome to get to meet you today, Chris, and hear your story. And, you know, you're a testament on here today that wives, spouses of law enforcement, you're not alone.
Yeah.
We're all thinking the same things and going through the same things and having the same experiences. So
Amen.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
That's right.
Amen.
We are live from LEPD Firearm and Range on Bethel Road right here in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, we are your Blue Line group with your Blue Line Wives Roll Call podcast.
Bye, everybody. Stay
Bye.
safe.
Bye.